The alarm bells rang loudly across the Zephyrian monitoring station. Commander Vexthul moved quickly to his control panel, his 4 eyes scanning the bright displays. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The station floated in the dark space around. Korath, a huge gas giant, with purple and green swirling clouds. For 50 years, this station had watched the empty space between the stars. It was their job to find any ships that might try to enter Zephyrian space without permission. Vexthul had seen many alien ships over the years. Most were small and weak. The Zephyrians had rules about this. Any species that tried to travel between stars had to ask permission first. Those who did not ask were destroyed, but this was different. The readings on his screen made no sense. The object was massive, bigger than any ship he had ever seen. It moved through space faster than should be possible. The energy coming from it was unlike anything in their records. Sensor Officer Krelenik, run the scan again, Vexthul ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had served the Empire for over 100 years. Krelenik, a younger Zephyrian with bright green markings on his shell, worked quickly at his station. Sir, the readings are the same. The object is approximately 2 kilometers long. Its energy signature does not match any known species in our database. Vexthul felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. The Empire had conquered 17 different alien races. They had never met a species that could build ships this advanced. Their own largest vessels were barely half this size. Where did it come from? He asked. The edge of the galaxy, sir. It appeared suddenly, as if it came from nowhere. Our long range. Sensors show no trail, no sign of how it got there. The commander studied the display more carefully. The ship was moving toward the inner systems of Zephyrian space. It would reach the first colonies within days. He had to make a decision quickly. Far away, on the bridge of the human warship USS Defiant, Captain Jake Morrison stood looking at the stars through the main window. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Most of the crew was asleep, but Morrison could not rest. Too much depended on the next few days. The Defiant was humanity's newest ship. It had taken 20 years to build and contained technology that no other species had ever seen. The quantum drive engines could move the ship faster than light in ways that even human scientists did not fully understand. The weapon systems had been tested only in computer simulations. Morrison was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had served in the Earth Navy for 30 years, but this mission was different from anything he had done before. The fate of humanity might depend on what happened next. Captain, came a soft voice from behind him. Morrison turned to see Lieutenant Amy Brooks approaching. She was the ship's tactical officer, a young woman with short brown hair and sharp intelligence. "What is it, Lieutenant?" Morrison asked. "Sir, we're picking up increased activity on the Zephyrian communication channels. They know we're here." Morrison nodded slowly. This was expected. The Zephyrians had monitoring stations throughout this part of space. There was no way to avoid them completely. "What are they saying?" he asked. Brooks checked her datapad. "Standard alert protocols, sir." "There." Reporting an unknown vessel entering their territory. "The messages are going to their fleet commanders." Morrison walked to the captain's chair and sat down. The bridge was designed to be efficient and comfortable. Human engineers had learned much from studying captured alien technology over the past decades. "How long before they respond?" he asked. "Based on their previous patterns, I would estimate 12 to 18 hours, sir. They'll want to gather a significant force before approaching us." The captain smiled slightly. The Zephyrians were predictable. They relied on fear and overwhelming numbers to defeat their enemies. Every species they had encountered had been weaker than them. They had never faced humans before. "Signal the crew," Morrison ordered. "Full alert status. I want everyone at their stations." As the ship's alarm system activated, crew members throughout the Defiant began moving to their positions. In the engine room, Commander Lisa Hayes checked the quantum field generators one more time. The technology was still new, but it had performed perfectly during their journey from Earth. Hayes was a skilled engineer who had worked on the Defiant's construction from the beginning. She understood the ship's systems better than anyone. The quantum engines could do things that violated everything other species knew about physics. "Engineering to bridge," she spoke into her communication device. "All systems are operating at full capacity, Captain. We're ready for whatever comes next." In the weapons control room, Chief Alex Rodriguez was running final checks on the torpedo systems. The quantum torpedoes were humanity's most secret weapon. Each one was small, no bigger than a human fist, but they contained enough power to destroy a planet. Rodriguez had been a weapons specialist for 15 years. He had fought in the border wars against the Centauri rebels and had seen what human weapons could do. But even he was impressed by what the scientists had created for this mission. "All weapons systems ready, Captain," he reported. "Quantum torpedoes. Loaded and armed." Back on the Zephyrian monitoring station, Commander Vexthil was sending urgent messages to the fleet commanders. The unknown ship was still moving toward their space, showing no signs of slowing down or changing course. "Sir," Krelinik called out, "I'm detecting something strange about their movement pattern." "What do you mean?" Vexthil asked. "The ship is not following standard navigation routes. It's moving in a straight line through areas of space that should be impossible to travel through safely." The commander looked at the display again. The young sensor officer was right. The ship was moving through gravitational fields and radiation, zones that would destroy any normal vessel. Yet it showed no signs of damage or distress. "Send a priority message to Admiral Kreshtar," Vexthil ordered. "Tell him we have a Code 7 situation. Unknown vessel with superior technology approaching the core systems." A Code 7 had not been declared in over 50 years. It meant that the Empire might be facing a threat equal to, or greater than, their own forces. The last time such a message had been sent, it had taken the combined might of 3 fleets to destroy the enemy. On the Defiant, Captain Morrison was meeting with his senior officers in the conference room. The room was small but comfortable, with a large table and chairs for the command staff. "Ladies and gentlemen," Morrison began, "we are now in Zephyrian space. Our mission is clear. We must demonstrate human capabilities without revealing all of our secrets. The future of humanity depends on the next few days." Lieutenant Brooks spoke first. "Sir, the aliens have sent alerts to their fleet commanders. We should expect contact within hours." Commander Hayes nodded. "The ship is ready, Captain. All systems are operating perfectly." Chief Rodriguez added, "Weapons are armed and ready. We can handle anything they send at us." Morrison looked at each of his officers. They were the best humanity had to offer. Each had been chosen for this mission because of their skills and dedication. "Remember," he said, "we are not here to start a war. We are here to end one before it begins." The Zephyrians have been planning to invade human space for years. Today, we show them why that would be a mistake. The meeting ended, and the officers returned to their stations. The Defiant continued its journey toward the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, carrying with it the hopes and fears of all humanity. In the depths of space, 2 civilizations were about to meet. One had conquered 17 worlds through fear and violence. The other had spent decades preparing for this moment. Soon, the galaxy would learn which species was truly the most dangerous. Admiral Kreshtar received the urgent message while he was reviewing battle plans in his private quarters. The massive Zephyrian had lived for over 200 years and had never lost a single battle. His flagship, the Void Render, was the largest ship in the Third Fleet and had destroyed countless enemy vessels. The admiral's quarters were dark and filled with the trophies of his victories. Weapons from defeated enemies hung on the walls. The skulls of alien leaders sat on shelves, reminders of the civilizations he had crushed. When he read the Code 7 alert, Kreshtar felt his blood grow cold. A Code 7 meant they were facing something dangerous, something that might actually be able to fight back. "Impossible," he muttered, his voice echoing in the empty room. "No species in this sector has the technology to challenge us." But the sensor readings were clear. The unknown vessel was large, fast, and showed energy signatures that did not match anything in their databases. Kreshtar had not survived 2 centuries of warfare by ignoring potential threats. He pressed a button on his desk, and his voice boomed throughout the ship. "All officers to the bridge." Battle stations. The Void Render came alive with activity. Zephyrian crew members moved quickly through the corridors, their chitinous shells clicking against the biometal walls. The ship itself was alive, grown rather than built, with systems that pulsed like a heartbeat. On the bridge, Kreshtar stood before the main display. His officers gathered around him, waiting for orders. The bridge was a dark place, lit only by the bioluminescent glow of the ship's living systems. "Status report," the Admiral commanded. Commander Yexcan, his second-in-command, stepped forward. "Sir, we have confirmed the presence of an unknown vessel, approximately 12 hours away. It is massive and moving at speeds that should not be possible." "What do we know about this species?" Kreshtar asked. "Very little, sir. The ship's design is unlike anything we have encountered. Our analysis suggests it may be from a species we have not yet catalogued." Kreshtar studied the display, showing the approaching vessel. In his long career, he had faced many different alien species. Some had been more advanced than others, but none had ever posed a real threat to Zephyrian superiority. "Prepare the standard intimidation formation," he ordered. 3 dreadnoughts, 12 cruisers, and 40 interceptors. We will show these aliens the price of entering our space without permission. The Third Fleet began to move. Massive bioships emerged from their hiding places among the asteroids and gas clouds. Each vessel was a work of art, grown from living tissue and metal, pulsing with threatening lights. The dreadnoughts were the largest ships, each one over 1 kilometer long. Their hulls were covered with bioplasma cannons that could melt through any known armor. The cruisers were faster and more maneuverable, designed to surround and destroy enemy vessels. The interceptors were small and quick, perfect for overwhelming enemy defenses. As the fleet formed up, Kreshtar felt the familiar satisfaction of commanding overwhelming force. This formation had defeated entire civilizations. Whatever species had sent this single ship would learn the same lesson that 17 others had learned before them. Meanwhile, on the USS Defiant, the crew was preparing for the encounter they had trained for their entire lives. In the engineering section, Commander Lisa Hayes was making final adjustments to the quantum field generators. The engineering section was the heart of the ship, filled with technology that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. The quantum engines created energy by manipulating the basic structure of space itself. It was dangerous and revolutionary, but it gave the Defiant capabilities that no other ship in the galaxy possessed. Hayes had been working on quantum technology for over a decade. She had helped design the systems that made the Defiant possible. Every component had been tested and retested, but this would be their first real combat situation. "All systems are operating at optimal levels," she reported to the bridge. "The quantum fields are stable, and we have full power available." On the bridge, Captain Morrison was studying the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was impressive, but it was exactly what human intelligence had predicted. The aliens relied on standard formations and overwhelming numbers. "Captain," Lieutenant Brooks called out from her tactical station. "I'm detecting 55 enemy vessels approaching our position. They're maintaining standard battle formation." Morrison nodded. "Any communication attempts?" "Not yet, sir. They appear to be moving into attack position." The captain walked to the center of the bridge. His crew was ready. They had trained for this moment for years, studying every piece of intelligence they could gather about Zephyrian tactics and technology. "Signal all stations," Morrison ordered. "Prepare for first contact." In the weapons control room, Chief Rodriguez was running through final system checks. The quantum torpedoes were loaded and ready. Each torpedo was a masterpiece of human engineering, containing technology that could rewrite the laws of physics in a small area of space. Doc Rodriguez had been briefed on the torpedo's capabilities, but even he did not fully understand how they worked. The scientists had explained that each torpedo created a localized quantum field that could erase matter from existence. It sounded like magic, but the test results were undeniable. "Weapon systems ready, Captain," he reported. "All quantum torpedoes are armed and targeted." The Marine commander, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Cooper, was in the shuttle bay with his troops. Cooper was a veteran of many battles, but this was different. They were not just fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for the future of humanity itself. "Listen up," Cooper told his Marines. "This ship represents everything humanity has achieved. We are the first humans to make contact with a major alien power. Make sure we make a good impression." The Marines checked their weapons and equipment. They wore advanced combat suits that enhanced their strength and speed. Each suit was equipped with shields and weapons that could penetrate any known armor. Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Crushdar was reviewing the final approach vectors. The unknown ship had not changed course or speed. It was heading directly toward the center of Zephyrian space. "Sir," Commander Yexcan reported, "we are now within communication range." Should we attempt to contact the vessel? Crushdar considered this. Standard protocol was to demand surrender before opening fire. It was more satisfying to see the fear in an enemy's eyes before destroying them. "Open a channel," he commanded. "Let us see what these aliens look like." The communication system activated, sending a signal toward the human ship. On the Defiant, the bridge crew detected the incoming transmission. "Captain," Communications Officer Beth Stevens called out, "we're receiving a communication from the lead enemy vessel." Morrison straightened his uniform. This was the moment they had prepared for. First contact with a hostile alien species. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The display flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship. Admiral Crushdar appeared on the screen, his massive form towering over his crew. His 4 eyes glowed with menace, and his chitinous shell was covered with battle scars. The sight of the alien admiral was impressive and terrifying. Crushdar had been designed by evolution to be a perfect predator. His species had conquered much of this part of the galaxy through superior technology and ruthless tactics. "Unknown vessel," Crushdar spoke, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. "You have entered Zephyrian space without authorization. State your purpose or be destroyed." Morrison stepped forward, his expression calm and professional. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations, monitoring the alien fleet and preparing for whatever might come next. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Navy," he replied. "We are explorers from the planet Earth. We come in peace." Crushdar. Mandibles clicked in what humans would later learn was the Zephyrian equivalent of laughter. "Peace? You bring a warship into our territory and speak of peace?" "We bring this ship for protection," Morrison said. We have heard stories of your empire's treatment of other species. The alien admiral's eyes narrowed. You have heard correctly. We are the dominant species in this sector of space. All others serve us or are destroyed. Your choice is simple. Surrender your ship and submit to Zephyrian authority, or be annihilated. Morrison glanced at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his response. The fate of humanity rested on the next few moments. Admiral, Morrison said calmly, I'm afraid we cannot accept your terms. The transmission ended as Kreshtar cut the connection. On the Zephyrian flagship, the Admiral was already giving orders to his fleet. Destroy them, he commanded. Show them the price of defying the Zephyrian Empire. The alien fleet began to move into attack formation. Bioplasma cannons charged with deadly energy. Interceptors moved to surround the human ship. The battle was about to begin. On the Defiant, Captain Morrison returned to his command chair. All hands, prepare for combat. This is what we came here to do. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment for years. Now they would show the galaxy what humans were capable of when they were properly prepared. Two fleets faced each other in the darkness of space. One represented an empire that had conquered 17 worlds. The other carried the hopes and dreams of humanity. In moments, the space between the two fleets crackled with tension. Admiral Kreshtar stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by his officers. The alien admiral was confident in his superiority. He had destroyed entire civilizations with formations, smaller than the one he now commanded. Target their engines, Kreshtar ordered. I want to capture their ship intact. Their technology may be useful to the Empire. The Zephyrian weapons officer, a young alien named Vekvar, worked quickly at his biomechanical controls. The ship's targeting systems were grown from living tissue, making them more accurate than any mechanical device. Weapons locked on target. Sir, Vekvar reported. Bioplasma cannons charged and ready. Kreshtar studied the human ship on his display. It was large and appeared to be well armed, but it was still just one vessel against his entire fleet. The outcome was certain. Fire a warning shot, he commanded. Let them see what they face. A single bioplasma bolt shot from the Zephyrian flagship. The superheated organic matter streaked across space, missing the human ship by several kilometers. The bolt struck an asteroid, instantly vaporizing the entire rock formation. On the Defiant, Captain Morrison watched the display with interest. The alien weapon was impressive, but he had seen the test results from their own systems. The comparison was not even close. Impressive, Morrison said calmly, but not unexpected. Lieutenant Brooks monitored the alien fleet movements. Sir, they're moving into a standard encirclement formation. 40 interceptors are spreading out to surround us. Morrison nodded. Human intelligence had studied Zephyrian tactics for decades. They knew exactly what the aliens would do in any given situation. Predictability was a weakness that could be exploited. Let them complete their formation, he ordered. We want them to feel confident. In the communications room, Officer Stevens was monitoring alien transmissions. The Zephyrians were communicating on multiple frequencies, coordinating their attack. Their language was complex, but human computers had learned to translate it years ago. Captain, Stevens reported, the alien commander is ordering his ships to disable our engines. He wants to capture us alive. Morrison smiled slightly. How thoughtful of him. Signal all departments. Prepare for combat demonstration. Throughout the ship, the crew moved to battle stations. In the engine room, Commander Hayes monitored the quantum field generators. The technology was stable and ready for full combat operations. Engineering to bridge, Hayes reported. All systems are operating at maximum efficiency. We have full power available for defensive and offensive operations. The quantum engines hummed with barely contained energy. The technology was beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever encountered. It manipulated the basic structure of space and time, creating effects that seemed to violate the laws of physics. In the weapons control room, Chief Rodriguez was making final preparations. The quantum torpedoes were armed and ready. Each torpedo was a work of art, containing technology that had taken humanity decades to develop. "Weapon systems ready, Captain," Rodriguez reported. "All quantum torpedoes are loaded and targeted." The Marine Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Cooper, was in the shuttle bay with his troops. The Marines were ready for boarding actions, but Cooper suspected they would not be needed. The Defiant's main weapons would be more than sufficient. "Stay sharp," Cooper told his Marines. "We may need to board enemy vessels to gather intelligence." Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kreshtar was growing impatient. The human ship had not moved or responded to his warning shot. This was unusual behavior for a species facing overwhelming odds. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "Let us see if we can reason with these aliens." The communication system activated, and once again, the two commanders faced each other across the void. Kreshtar's imposing form filled the screen, his bioluminescent displays pulsing with threat patterns. "Human Captain," Kreshtar began, his voice carrying the weight of 2 centuries of conquest. "You have seen our power. Your single ship cannot defeat my entire fleet. Surrender now, and I will grant you a quick death." Morrison stepped forward, his expression calm and professional. Behind him, his crew continued their preparations. They showed no signs of fear or panic. "Admiral," Morrison replied, "I appreciate your offer, but we must decline. We have our own mission to complete." Kreshtar's mandibles clicked in irritation. "You do not understand the situation. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 17 different species. We have destroyed entire star systems. Your primitive technology cannot stand against us." "Primitive?" Morrison asked with genuine curiosity. "What makes you think our technology is primitive?" The alien admiral gestured toward the display showing the human ship. "Your vessel is small and alone. You have no fleet, no support. You are clearly a young species that has barely learned to travel between stars." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "I can see why you might think that, but appearances can be deceiving." "Enough talk," Kreshtar snarled. "You will surrender or be destroyed. Choose now." The transmission ended as the alien admiral cut the connection. On the Zephyrian flagship, Kreshtar turned to his weapons officer. "Target their weapons systems," he ordered. "Disable them, but do not destroy the ship. I want to study their technology." The Zephyrian fleet moved into final attack position. The 3 dreadnoughts formed a triangle around the human ship, their bioplasma cannons charging with deadly energy. The 12 cruisers spread out to cover all escape routes. The 40 interceptors swarmed around the Defiant like angry insects. "Sir," Betvo reported, "all weapons are charged and ready. We have complete target lock on the enemy vessel." Kreshtar raised one armored hand. "Fire." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire simultaneously. Dozens of bioplasma bolts streaked across space toward the human ship. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. It should have vaporized the Defiant instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ship's shields flared to life, creating a brilliant blue barrier around the vessel. The bioplasma bolts struck the barrier and simply vanished, their energy absorbed harmlessly. On the Zephyrian flagship, silence fell over the bridge. The weapons officer stared at his instruments in disbelief. The readings showed that their most powerful weapons had had no effect whatsoever. "Sir," Nekver said, his voice shaking. Our weapons had no impact. The enemy shields absorbed the entire attack. Kreshtar felt something he had not experienced in over a century. Fear. Real. Genuine fear. In 200 years of warfare, he had never seen shields that could completely absorb bioplasma weapons. Impossible, he whispered. No species has ever withstood our primary weapons. On the Defiant, the crew watched their instruments with satisfaction. The quantum shields had performed exactly as designed. The alien attack had actually strengthened their defensive systems by feeding energy into the ship's power grid. Shields at 110%, Commander Hayes reported. Their weapons are actually helping us. Captain Morrison stood calmly at the center of the bridge. This was the moment they had prepared for. A demonstration of human technological superiority. Open a channel to the alien fleet, he ordered. The communication system activated, broadcasting Morrison's image to every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. The human captain appeared calm and confident, showing no signs of stress or concern. Admiral Kreshtar, Morrison said. That was an impressive display of firepower. Now let me show you what human engineering can accomplish. The Defiant's weapon. Systems came online with a low hum that resonated through the ship's hull. The quantum torpedo tubes opened, revealing the sleek weapons within. Each torpedo was small, but contained more destructive power than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. All weapons ready, Captain, Chief Rodriguez reported. Quantum torpedoes locked on target. Morrison studied the alien fleet formation. Zephyrians had made a tactical error by surrounding his ship. They were now clustered together, making them perfect targets for area effect weapons. Fire one torpedo, Morrison ordered. Target the flagship. A Defiant fired a single quantum torpedo. The weapon was no larger than a human fist, but it moved through space at incredible speed. The Zephyrian point defense systems tried to intercept it, but the torpedo simply passed through their weapons' fire without effect. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kreshtar watched the approaching torpedo with growing alarm. His defensive systems were firing continuously, but the human weapon seemed immune to their efforts. All defensive systems are ineffective, Vekver reported. The torpedo is not responding to our countermeasures. The quantum torpedo struck the void render amidships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the weapon activated, creating a localized quantum field that simply deleted a perfect sphere of matter from the center of the ship. The massive biovessel, suddenly missing its core command structure, began to collapse in on itself. The living systems that controlled the ship died instantly, cut off from their central nervous system. Admiral Kreshtar had just enough time to realize that his species had encountered something far beyond their comprehension. The human weapon did not explode or burn. It simply erased matter from existence, leaving nothing behind. The void render imploded, its remaining structure collapsing into the void where its center had been. The flagship that had destroyed C. The debris of the void render drifted slowly through space, a monument to the end of Zephyrian invincibility. Sub-Admiral Yexkan stood on the bridge of his cruiser, the Bone Crusher, trying to understand what had just happened. In 3 centuries of Imperial expansion, no enemy had ever destroyed a Zephyrian dreadnought with a single shot. Sir, his communications officer reported, the human vessel is hailing us again. Yexkan stared at the display showing the human ship. It looked so ordinary, so primitive compared to the biomechanical masterpieces of the Zephyrian fleet. Yet, it had just demonstrated power beyond anything in their experience. Put them through, he ordered. Captain Morrison's image appeared on the main screen. The human looked calm and professional, as if destroying the Empire's flagship had been routine. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Sub-Admiral, Morrison said, I regret the loss of your flagship. We had hoped to resolve this peacefully. Yexcon's mandibles clicked nervously. What do you want from us? We want to establish peaceful relations with your empire, Morrison replied. But first, we need to demonstrate that humanity is not the primitive species you believed us to be. The human captain gestured to someone off-screen. A moment later, a new voice spoke from the Defiance bridge. Sub-Admiral, came the voice of Commander Hayes. We have been monitoring your fleet's power systems. Would you like to see what else our technology can do? Yexkin felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. What do you mean? On the Defiant, Hayes was working at her engineering station. The quantum field generators were operating at full power, creating effects that the Zephyrians had never imagined possible. Watch your power readings, Hayes suggested. Across the Zephyrian fleet, something impossible began to happen. The biomechanical power systems that drove their ships started to fluctuate wildly. Energy levels that had been stable for decades began to spike and fall without explanation. Sir, the Bone Crusher's engineering officer reported, our power systems are being affected by some kind of external field. All ships are reporting the same problem. Yexkin studied his instruments. In growing alarm, the humans were somehow interfering with their ship's power systems without firing a single shot. If they could do this, they could disable the entire fleet whenever they chose. How is this possible? He asked. Morrison's voice came through the speakers again. Our quantum field generators can manipulate energy at the subatomic level. We could shut down your entire fleet right now, but we prefer to negotiate. The demonstration continued for several minutes. Power levels across the Zephyrian fleet fluctuated wildly as the humans showed their ability to control alien technology from a distance. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the interference stopped. Your power systems should return to normal now, Hayes reported. That was just a small sample of our capabilities. Yexkin realized that his fleet was completely at the mercy of the human ship. They could destroy his vessels one by one, or they could disable them all simultaneously. The choice was entirely theirs. What do you want? He asked again. We want to talk, Morrison replied. We want to establish communication between our species. We want to prevent a war that would be costly for both sides. On the Defiant, Lieutenant Brooks was monitoring the alien fleet's movements. The ships were maintaining their positions, but their weapon systems had powered down. The demonstration had achieved its intended effect. Sir, Brooks reported, the enemy fleet is standing down. They're no longer targeting us. Morrison nodded. Good. Signal all departments. Maintain alert status, but hold fire unless attacked. In the weapons control room, Chief Rodriguez was studying the quantum torpedo systems. The weapons had performed perfectly, but he was amazed by their destructive power. The single torpedo that had destroyed the flagship had used only a fraction of its potential energy. Captain, Rodriguez reported, all weapon systems are ready. We have 11 quantum torpedoes remaining. The Marine commander, Lieutenant Colonel Cooper, was in the shuttle bay preparing for possible boarding actions. His troops were ready to board alien vessels if necessary, but Cooper hoped it would not come to that. Stay alert, Cooper told his Marines. We may need to inspect their ships to gather intelligence. Back on the Zephyrian cruiser, Sub-Admiral Yexcan was receiving reports from his remaining ships. The human demonstration had affected every vessel in the fleet. Their power systems were back to normal, but the implications were terrifying. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human ship appears to be maintaining a defensive posture. They're not moving to attack. Yexkin studied the tactical display. The humans had demonstrated overwhelming superiority, but they had not pressed their advantage. This was unusual behavior for a conquering species. Open a channel to the human ship, he ordered. Morrison's image appeared on the screen again. The human captain looked patient, as if he was willing to wait for the Zephyrians to make their decision. "Captain Morrison," Yexkin said, "your demonstration was ... impressive. But I must ask, why have you not destroyed us? You clearly have the power to do so." Morrison leaned forward slightly. "Because we are not conquerors, Sub-Admiral. We are explorers and defenders. We came here to send a message, not to start a war." "What message?" Yexkin asked. "That humanity is ready to take its place in the galaxy," Morrison replied. "We know about your empire's expansion plans. We know about the species you have conquered. We are here to tell you that humanity will not be added to that list." The communication channel fell silent as Yexcan considered this. The humans knew about the empire's plans. They had been watching and preparing. This was not a chance encounter. "How long have you been observing us?" he asked. "Decades," Morrison admitted. "We have been studying your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We have been preparing for this meeting for a very long time." On the Defiant, the crew was monitoring the alien fleet's communications. The Zephyrians were sending urgent messages to their high command, reporting the encounter and requesting instructions. "Sir," Communications Officer Stevens reported, "they're sending priority messages to their home worlds. They're asking for guidance on how to proceed." Morrison nodded. "That's expected. They've never encountered a species that could challenge them before." In the engine room, Commander Hayes was monitoring the quantum field generators. The technology was performing flawlessly, but she was concerned about the long-term implications of their demonstration. "Captain," Hayes reported, "our power systems are stable. But I should warn you that our quantum field manipulation may have given them some insight into our technology." Morrison considered this. Understood? But they needed to see enough to know we're serious. The tactical situation was delicate. The humans had demonstrated superior technology, but they were still outnumbered 50-1. If the Zephyrians decided to attack with their full force, the battle would be costly for both sides. "Sir," Lieutenant Brooks called out, "I'm detecting movement in the alien fleet. 3 cruisers are moving to flank us." Morrison studied the tactical display. The Zephyrians were testing his resolve, trying to determine if he would actually use his superior weapons against them. "Signal the approaching ships," he ordered. "Tell them to maintain their distance." The communication went out to the 3 cruisers, but they continued their approach. The alien commanders were either testing human resolve or preparing for a desperate attack. "Sir," Brooks reported, "they're not responding to our warnings. They're moving into attack position." Morrison made a quick decision. "Fire a warning shot. Target the lead cruiser's engines." The Defiant fired a single quantum torpedo, but this time it was set to minimum power. The weapon struck the alien cruiser's engine section, creating a small quantum field that disabled the ship's propulsion systems without destroying it. The cruiser immediately lost power and began to drift helplessly through space. The other 2 ships stopped their approach and began moving back toward the main fleet. "Sub-Admiral," Morrison said over the communication channel, "we have disabled one of your ships, but not destroyed it. Your crew is safe, but the ship will need repairs. This is our final warning." Yexcan stared at the display showing his disabled cruiser. The humans had demonstrated precise control over their weapons. They could destroy his ships or disable them at will. "I understand," he said. "My ships will maintain their distance." The crisis passed, but the tension remained. The 2 fleets faced each other in the darkness of space, each side waiting for the other to make the next move. Hours passed. The Zephyrian fleet held position while their commanders waited for orders from the high command. The human ship continued its patrol, showing no signs of aggression, but maintaining its defensive posture. Finally, Sub-Admiral Yexcan received new orders from the Imperial capital. The message was brief but clear. avoid further conflict with the humans until their capabilities could be properly assessed. Captain Morrison, Yexkin said over the communication channel, I have received orders from my superiors. We are to withdraw from this area and report our findings to the Imperial Council. Morrison nodded. That is acceptable. But before you leave, I want you to understand something important. What is that? This ship, the Defiant, is not unique. Humanity has built many vessels with similar capabilities. We have 3 days after the encounter, the Zephyrian Imperial Council gathered in the Great Chamber on their home world of Zephyr Prime. The massive biostructure that housed the council was grown from living coral and stretched high into the purple sky. Inside, the most powerful beings in the Empire sat in a circle, their bioluminescent displays flickering with agitation. Emperor Krothzul was ancient, even by Zephyrian standards. He had ruled the Empire for over 4 centuries and had overseen the conquest of 17 different species. His massive form dominated the center of the chamber, his 4 eyes studying the reports from the encounter with the humans. Sub-Admiral Yexkan, the Emperor spoke, his voice echoing through the chamber. Explain to us again how a single alien vessel destroyed our most powerful flagship. Yexkan stood before the council, his bioluminescent displays dim with shame. Your Majesty, the humans possess technology beyond our current understanding. Their weapons can erase matter from existence. Their shields can absorb our most powerful attacks and convert them into energy. The Emperor's mandibles clicked in. Irritation. Impossible. No species in this galaxy has ever demonstrated such capabilities. I saw it with my own eyes, Your Majesty, Yexkan replied. The human ship called the Defiant destroyed the Void Render with a single shot. The weapon did not explode or burn. It simply removed a sphere of matter from the ship's center. General Vorthek, the Empire's military commander, leaned forward. What about their numbers? Surely they cannot have many ships with such technology. The human captain claimed they have an entire fleet of similar vessels, Yexkan reported. He said, they have been preparing for contact with our empire for decades. The council chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. If the humans truly possessed multiple ships with such advanced technology, the Empire's expansion plans would need to be reconsidered. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Morrison was giving his own report to the United Earth Navy Command. The secure conference room was filled with humanity's top military leaders, all eager to hear about the first contact with a hostile alien species. Admiral Patricia Collins, the chief of naval operations, studied the tactical reports with interest. Captain, you're certain about the effectiveness of our weapons? Yes, Admiral, Morrison replied. The quantum torpedoes performed exactly as designed. One shot was sufficient to destroy their largest vessel. General Robert Hayes, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, looked up from his datapad. What about? Their response? Are they planning to attack Earth? Morrison shook his head. No, sir. They appeared to be genuinely shocked by our capabilities. The surviving commander seemed more interested in avoiding further conflict than in pressing an attack. Admiral Collins nodded. That's what we hoped for. The demonstration was designed to show them that humanity is not an easy target. The meeting continued for hours as the military leaders discussed the implications of the encounter. The plan they had developed over decades was working. The Zephyrians had been shown that humanity was a technological equal, not a primitive species to be conquered. Back on Zephyr Prime, the Imperial Council was still debating their response. The Emperor had received additional reports from intelligence sources throughout the galaxy. The humans had not been idle in the years since first contact. Your Majesty, reported Intelligence Director Kexnall, our sources indicate that the humans have established colonies on at least 12 worlds. Each colony appears to be heavily fortified with advanced defensive systems. Emperor Krethzel studied the star charts showing human expansion. How did we miss this? How did an entire species develop such technology without our knowledge? They have been very careful to avoid detection, Kexnal replied. Their expansion has been slow and methodical. They have also been studying our own technology through captured equipment and intercepted communications. The Emperor's bioluminescent displays flared with anger. They have been spying on us for decades, Your Majesty. Our analysis suggests they have been preparing for this encounter since their first contact with our empire 50 years ago. The revelation was disturbing. The humans had not stumbled into space unprepared. They had been watching, learning, and building their strength for this exact moment. General Vorthak spoke up. Your Majesty, perhaps we should reconsider our expansion plans. If the humans possess technology superior to our own, a direct confrontation could be costly. The Emperor considered this. In 4 centuries of rule, he had never backed down from a challenge. But he had also never faced an enemy with such advanced capabilities. What do our scientists say about their technology? He asked. Chief Science Advisor Deximer stepped forward. Your Majesty, our analysis of the sensor data suggests that the humans have mastered quantum field manipulation. This technology allows them to alter the basic structure of matter and energy. Can we duplicate their technology? The Emperor asked. Not without access to their research and equipment, Deximer replied. Their quantum field generators appear to be centuries ahead of our current capabilities. The Emperor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The Empire had always relied on superior technology to defeat their enemies. Now they faced a species that might be even more advanced. On Earth, the strategic implications of the encounter were being discussed at the highest levels of government. President Sarah Martinez was meeting with her national security team to review the situation. The demonstration was successful, reported Defense Secretary William Chun. The Zephyrians now understand that humanity is not a primitive species. They can easily conquer. President Martinez studied the reports from the encounter. What's our assessment of their next move? Based on their previous behavior patterns, they will likely withdraw and reassess the situation, replied CIA Director Lisa Thompson. They have never encountered a species that could match their technology before. The President nodded. Good. That gives us time to strengthen our defenses and prepare for whatever comes next. The meeting continued as the government leaders discussed the long-term implications of the encounter. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy, but the real work was just beginning. Back on the Defiant, Captain Morrison was reviewing the mission logs with his senior staff. The encounter had been successful, but it was only the first step in a much larger plan. Sir, Lieutenant Brooks reported, we're receiving new orders from Earth Command. We're to continue our patrol and monitor Zephyrian activity in this sector. Morrison nodded. Understood. What about the other ships in our fleet? Commander Hayes checked her reports. The USS Intrepid and USS Sovereign are taking up positions along our borders. The USS Valiant is providing support for our colony worlds. The human fleet was small, but technologically advanced. Each ship carried weapons and defensive systems that could challenge the entire Zephyrian Empire. It was a force designed for quality over quantity. Sir, Chief Rodriguez reported, our quantum torpedo supplies are being replenished. We'll have a full load within the week, Morrison smiled. Good. We may need them. The weeks that followed saw a dramatic shift in galactic politics. The Zephyrian Empire, for the first time in centuries, began to pull back from their expansion. Reports of the human encounter spread throughout the galaxy, reaching the ears of other species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians. On the mining world of Kepler-7, a former human colony that had been abandoned decades earlier, something unexpected happened. The Zephyrian garrison received orders to withdraw, leaving the planet undefended for the first time in 30 years. The native population, descendants of the original human colonists, emerged from their hiding places in the underground caverns. They had survived decades of oppression, but they had never forgotten their human heritage. "The humans have returned," whispered Elder James Parker, one of the few survivors who remembered the original colony. "They have come to free us." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as news of the human demonstration spread. Species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians began to hope that their oppression might finally end. On Zephyr Prime, Emperor Krathzal was facing the greatest crisis of his reign. For the first time in 4 centuries, the Empire was retreating. Other species in the galaxy were beginning to sense weakness. "Your Majesty," reported General Vorthok, "we are receiving reports of unrest on 17 different worlds. The subject species are beginning to rebel." The Emperor's bioluminescent displays flared with rage. "Crush them. Show them what happens to those who defy the Empire." "Sir," Vorthak replied carefully, "our forces are already stretched thin. If we commit to suppressing all these rebellions, we will have no reserves left to deal with the human threat." The strategic situation was becoming impossible. The Empire could fight the rebellions or prepare for war with humanity, but they could not do both. Meanwhile, on Earth, the government was preparing for the next phase of their plan. The demonstration had been successful, but they knew the Zephyrians would not give up easily. "The intelligence reports are encouraging," Admiral Collins told the assembled military leaders. "The Zephyrian Empire is facing internal unrest. Our demonstration has given hope to the species they have conquered." Captain Morrison, who had returned to Earth for debriefing, nodded. "The other species are looking to us for leader,"